Today we're going to talk about how to amend a bed. But first, I'm going to give you a little primer on soil and why there is a need to amend the beds. Okay, so soil is made up of 4 ingredients. There's decomposed rock, organic matter, air, and water. Of decomposed rock, there are 3 kinds: sand, silt, and clay. Sand is very coarse. It has good aeration, however, nutrients and water go right through it. On the other hand, clay soil is very fine particles with even edges that stick together, which causes the soil to be very hard. Clay soil holds nutrients well, it holds water well, but it has terrible aeration. If you have clay soil, to separate those particles, we use organic matter. If you have sandy soil and you need it to be bound together, then we use organic matter. So the point of the story is, either way, we're going to add organic matter to help with the structure of the soil. First thing that we need to do is we need to clear the bed. And I'm going to make sure that there's nothing left in the soil regarding any leaves or any roots, any stems. I'm going to take everything out. Okay, once the bed is cleared, I'm now going to add my amendments. I'm going to use a bag of manure, and I'm going to use 1.5 cups of fertilizer. You never want to over fertilize. That can be worse than under fertilizing. So always read the directions. Next step is to use the garden fork, put it into the ground, into the soil, step on it, and take the bottom soil and turn it over so that the top is now on the bottom and the bottom is now on the top. And this so that the amendments and the soil get well mixed. Okay, now that I've turned the soil, I'm going to take my cultivator and break up any clumps of soil that are held together. During the season when our plants are growing, they are taking all of the nutrients out of the soil, and we need to replenish those nutrients. Like humans, plants need a balanced diet in order to thrive. Also, like humans, plants need certain nutrients in larger quantities called primary nutrients, and certain nutrients in smaller quantities called secondary nutrients. The primary nutrients for plants are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Their symbols are NPK. Anytime we go to buy fertilizer, we're going to see 3 numbers on a package. This one says 352. The first number 3 is for nitrogen, the second number 5 is for phosphorus, the third number 2 is for potassium. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK. The reason they don't add it to 100 is because there's always filler in the product that helps with the dispersion of the fertilizers. When we are using our fertilizer, we want to make sure we're adding water after we fertilize. The plants need water in order to take up the fertilizer. Okay, let's talk about the individual fertilizers that you could use. The first one is manure. Manure is the excrement or waste of animals, specifically herbivore animals. The strongest, the ones with the most nutrients, are rabbits. Second, sheep and goat. Bottom is horses and cows. The next would be guano. Guano is excrement of bats and seabirds, which is, I believe, 1312-2 is some seabird guano. That is very rich in nutrients, but not a lot of organic content. The bags are going to be a lot smaller. Next would be compost. Compost is great because you can do it yourself at home. And this is a great cycle that you can get into whereby you're making compost to feed your plants are feeding you, you're then using the waste of the plant to feed the soil, and this cycle is one of sustainability. And you know, being able to talk the talk and walk the walk in sustainability is a beautiful thing. Another one is worm castings. Castings are the excrement of worms. So when we would put food scraps into a worm bin, the worms would eat it, digest it, and then what comes out the other side are the castings. And those are excellent as a garden fertilizer, again, because we can make it at home, we can make it ourselves. Also, it's a lot more nutritious than compost. Compost is great, again, like manure, for adding structure, for adding organic content to the structure of the soil, whereas the worm castings are really good for adding nutrients. Their NPK is around 322, which is a lot higher than compost, which is like 111. Okay, so for that reason, I would recommend if you can do both, because you'll get a lot of green waste. You can get rid of a lot of green waste with compost. You can also make a lot of fertilizer with worm composting, and it's quicker than regular composting. Okay. Another organic fertilizer is granular fertilizer. Now this is going to be a combination of many different materials. You'll read the ingredients on the back. Also make sure you follow the directions on the back. And this is true of all your fertilizers. Make sure you follow directions and don't over-fertilize. Over-fertilizing can be just as bad, if not worse, than not fertilizing at all, because you can really kill the plant overnight over-fertilizing it. If you happen to come out the next day and your plant is wilted after fertilizing it, try to leach the fertilizer out with a lot of water so that the salts will come out, and perhaps you can save it that way. Another organic fertilizer is fish emulsion, which is a byproduct of the fish industry. Fish emulsion is great because it's in liquid form. It usually comes in a concentrate. You would add water and then use it that way. NPK of fish emulsions is around 511. Not a lot of phosphorus and potassium, but a lot of nitrogen. And so it's really great for your green plants, great for the vegetation stage of growing plants. Back in early days, Native Americans used to plant a fish head with their corn. Last one I want to mention is green manure or cover crops. Cover crops is a combination of plants that adds organic content to a soil, also adds nutrients to a soil. So I'll give you an example. There's a blend of oats, vetch, and peas that you can plant here in Southern California in September. And then around January, we would mow it and just leave it in the area so that it would decompose right there on top of the soil. And so for areas that you're not using, that's a really good way to go. Okay, so that's it for our organic fertilizers and for plant nutrition. If you have any questions, please see our Facebook page, facebook.com/Greystone Demonstration Garden. If you have any questions, please put them there and I'll try to get to them all in a timely manner. Okay, thanks. See you next time.